I'm going to repair my wrecked pirate flags. I made some awesome pirate flags entirely by hand, stitched them, modeled them after a real authentic 18th century pirate flag in a museum. They were beautiful. And then at the very last minute I said, you know, I'm ready to ship them off, but I just want to give them a little bit of that weather that I imagined that they should have at the beginning of the project. Before I'd made them, I had a picture in my head of what they should look like, and I tried that, and I turned them all pink, and so I tried to fix it, and it made it worse. And I think what had happened is I fell in love. Like they look like I thought they should look, beat up and weather beaten and worn, and turns out I fell in love with them as they were along the way, which was pretty black and crisp looking and really sharp and really cool looking. So I'm going to take these apart. I'm going to salvage them. I bleached them out a little bit to get the pink out of the skulls and bones, and I'm now going to set to fixing them. I'm going to take my seam ripper and I'm going to pull all these skulls and bones off. I'm going to pull all these hundreds of stitches out, and I'm going to try to salvage as much of this as I can, re-dye them, and reattach everything. If that doesn't work, I still have my templates, and I'll make new bones. So this project is an exercise in how to save a ruined project from destruction. If you wreck a project, how do you save it? I hate tearing a project apart. It was so beautiful, man. They were so cool. But this happens, and happens to all different kinds of projects, whether it's art or building, or restoring our old farmhouse. And I've run into things where things were going along good, and then you run into a problem. You got to figure out how to fix it. So this kind of thing happens. So it's best to just figure out how to do it and get on with it. Yeah, here we go. So with the seam ripper, you just get in at the edge of the stitch and just kind of pull it and gently lift the fabric that you're separating, and just go methodically all the way around. So it's kind of tedious, but at least there's a lot of it to do. There we go. So far so good. It's coming loose. Going to get all the lamenting my lost beautiful project out of my system now, so I don't keep going over it. But boy, they were pretty before. I was heartsick when I saw what I had done to them, trying to improve them, and fouled it up. But I'm pretty confident I'll be able to save these. So I've just got to go down the line, and another couple thousand stitches pulled, and we'll be well on our way to repairing this disastrous wreck. But like I said, this happens in, I paint portraits and landscapes and stuff, and I've had paintings go bad at the last couple brush strokes, and I had a kitchen project I was doing go bad, and I had to fix some stuff there, so it doesn't do any good to lament it too much. Just got to get in and figure out what your plan of attack is, and then fix it. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to take the stitches out. I'm going to save all these bones and skulls, and I'm going to try to re-dye this. This is the flag body. I'm going to try to re-dye it and get it nice and crisp looking. Get these to a better state. I'm going to iron them out and make them nice and flat, and I'll put them back on. That right there, that's a lot of the work is already done. I'm just trying to save it from this state. I can't have a pink or a pirate flag with pink skulls and bones. I don't think it looks right. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? You want a pink pirate flag? If anyone wants a pink pirate flag, let me know before I tear these apart. I'll send it to you. One of them's already sold, so that one I'm going to be making from scratch, which means I'll be doing the entire thing, hems and all, basically just remaking it. But the others, I have 3 total that I'm doing. I'm going to salvage them.
I wanted mine to be weathered and worn, and that's what I've got. It's just they were just too far gone to keep as they are. So rather than sit around and think about it too much, I'm just going to get to it and get it fixed and rebuild it. So there we go. So it's already going pretty fast. And one of the nice things is these stitches, just dropped my seam ripper. It's all right. So it's got skulls and bones on both sides. So as I pull the stitches, it's removing 2 bones at once. So I'm just gonna. Hello. You gonna help me there, Scout? Got my assistant with me here. So I could cut these threads with this, but then you wind up with 9 million little 1/4 inch long pieces of thread to clean up out of the thing. If I do them in longer stretches, then they okay, thank you. If you do them in longer stretches like this, I don't know if that does that show up on camera? No, not really, but you can take my word for it. There's a black thread here. It's just easier to pull it out. So this stage is just all about quick, efficient, don't do any more damage to it. Right? First, do no harm. So I just want to get these bones and skulls removed, and I'm going to set them aside. I can then re-dye the bodies of the flags, and while they're dying or being dyed, I can set to work on these things, trying to lighten them up, alter the color a bit. I'm going to bleach them, I think, a little bit, just to remove some more of that pink. What happened was I used just a brown dye, and I only used a tiny amount relative to what I'd used before when I was dyeing them, and I thought I had the right amount, but when they came out, they turned pink, like a pretty vibrant pink, and so I mixed up a weak bleach solution and got a 2.5 inch paintbrush and painted it on there and rinsed it out, and it actually helped. It removed a lot of the red dye, but it also bleached out the field of the flag, which isn't right. It didn't look terrible at night. I took them outside the next day and set them up in the bright sunlight, and from a couple 100 feet away they just vanished. They're just this pale fog gray, which doesn't do when the whole point of a black flag is to be hoisted up at several 100 meters at least and terrify the merchants into hauling down their flag and surrendering. So I need a black flag, so I've got to make these black again. Now, re-dyeing clothes was definitely a thing in the 18th century, so it's possible maybe this happened to some real pirates at some points. Maybe I'm just reviving an ancient tradition of restoring a pirate flag to her true colors. I don't know. I'd like to think that there's some authenticity to what I'm doing here. At least that's usually my aim. I've got an authentic design, and I try to use techniques at least similar to the way they were done in the period. So this one's kind of tricky here. Got some extra threads in there. So let's see here. Maybe I should attack this from the other side. You just work that little blade in there and it snips those threads. And this part, while I was trying to restore it, it came apart, and so I restitched it. I added a lot of stitches onto it, so this part's a little bit more complicated than the intact section I was just working on up there. But that went really pretty quickly. I mean, I've been on, how long have I been streaming here? 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes ago, so that actually is, it's not bad. I've got one bone, about 1/3 of it already, the stitch is pulled. So here we go. I'm going to do a test here just to see if you can hear me. I don't know. I'm going to do a test here just to see. Yep. All right. So I have to keep the volume off. I suppose I could use headphones, but I'm not really listening to anything right now. But otherwise, I didn't realize. I just started learning how to live stream this year, last month while I was working on I made a Revolutionary War linen tent by hand, and my first half dozen streams, I didn't realize until a friend of mine posted a comment. And he's a guy I've known for years, and he said, "Hey, where's the sound?" So I finally figured out how to get sound working, and then I did a couple of streams where I had my speakers going and the microphone, and it was just feeding back and doubling the sound, and made all kinds of inaudible mess. So, not inaudible. What do you call it? What's the word? I don't know. Couldn't understand it. Unintelligible. How about that? So then I figured out that I have to turn off my audio on this. So that's what I've done. So I can't tell unless I check with my phone if the audio is okay, but it seems all right. All right, so got a bunch of these extra stitches out. This is actually going okay now. Once I got around that corner, it's not too bad. All right, so in the worst case, I'll just make all these from scratch new. I hate to do that because I hate wasting them. I mean, my hems. I mean, look at that. Like these are pretty nice. Like they're the stitching on them is all pretty good, and reinforcing and everything. But they're nicely made. I just fouled up the appearance of them, trying to get back to something that I just wanted to look cool, and they did, man. I hung them out on our clothesline out back, and they were blowing in the wind, and the sun hit them, and it just looked beautiful. They were waving in there like, I could really imagine how it must have looked a couple hundred years ago to see a sloop coming up, flying these colors. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're going to put try to turn this into a positive, maybe somebody can learn from my mistakes on this. Hey, don't use a dye that you're not familiar with. If you've got a finished project, maybe test it first. I should have too. I had even made extra material that I could, specifically for the purpose of testing things on, and I just didn't do it. I thought, I don't know, I know what I can do. And I just went ahead and did it. Sometimes that works great, and other times you wind up having to redo the project like this. So hopefully I can turn this into something useful. Maybe somebody watching the stream or the subsequent video maybe it'll save them some trouble someday. All right, so yeah, once I got those extra stitches out, now it's cruising along pretty quickly again. Just an extra knot there. There we go. Okay. Ordinarily, when I'm working, I listen to live streams from other people, and I was doing that a couple weeks ago. I was working on part of this, and got a note from YouTube saying that my video is now restricted, and that one particular one cannot be shown in Russia because the guy I was listening to used a bit of, like 2 minutes of someone else's music on his stream, and it was like a 7-hour stream. So 2 minutes out of that was enough to make it so that Russians can't watch How to Make My Pirate Flag episode. And unfortunately, YouTube has this tool called Studio, and you can edit live streams, and you know, I use it to chop out my coffee breaks mainly, but just so it's a little bit more coherent when you're watching it back later. And I didn't know that I think it's over like 6 hours, you can't edit that way. So, so I can't chop that one down to cut out that music because the stream is too long. So, I don't know what to do about it. 'Cause, I mean, my channel's not monetized, so I'm not concerned with monetization, but I do want people to be able to see the video wherever they are. And I get viewers from all around the world. I was checking my analytics the other day, and I mean, like New York and LA and Hyderabad, and I mean, so people from India and Australia and England and Russia, and you know, a surprising number of people overseas tune in on these things. So I mean, I don't get tons of views, but the ones I do are from all over the place. It's kind of cool. I suppose it makes sense. I mean, it's a great way to learn what other people on the planet are doing all at the same time. It's kind of neat. Alright, so let me chop that string so it's out of my thread. So we almost have this bone off. This is going pretty quickly, so I'm going to look at the clock when I get this one done, and that'll give me some estimate as to how much time I can expect this to take. I usually get a little faster as I go. I'll do one and then kind of get my technique down, you know, get into the rhythm, and just kind of cruise along here. So I'm just pulling threads, and there we go, right along this. Pull that. Every once in a while I cut the thread. I like to, like I said, I don't like having to pull, you know, 1,000 little 1/4-inch sections out, so I don't just run along and snip it, but I like to pull out sections of thread. So every once in a while you just cut them, so then not taking too long to pull through. And at the same time, I'm trying not to stretch the fabric of the flag or the bones, and trying to keep the shape intact, because I do want to reuse these if I can. I really hope I can, because I made these very carefully, and I think they're really cool. It's just the color is wrong. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to salvage it. I'll try to whiten the bones and blacken the flag, and then put it back together. And then if I need to, I'll go back in with some more black oil paint and deepen the shadows on the skull and the bones and stuff. Just make it crisp again. My guess is that this is going to come out looking better eventually than it would have had I not made this mistake, but this is a long road to get there. A lot of extra work to get, it's an awful lot of extra work to get this fixed up, man. I had planned to be on a different project by this time, but I've got to get this done right. So it doesn't do any good to worry too much about that, because it has to be done anyway. So it's got to be done. It's got to be done. There we go. All right, first bone is off, and that's actually 2 bones because the one on the other side is off too. So let me get these little threads out of the way. But I've got one. I'm just going to start setting these aside, and I think what I'm going to do. You can't see that. Lower this a bit. I think what I'm going to do is put these together and keep these pairs together, because they are fitted to one another, right? I mean, it's sewed through the flag to each one, and let's see here. Is this one completely off? Yeah. See, so this should be a mirror, like a pretty exact mirror, because I sewed. All those stitches went through the edges of each one of them, so they should line up very closely. You see, maybe not exactly, but it's pretty close. And I think they stretched a bit or something, but anyway, it's very close. So I'm going to keep these together as pairs, and then when maybe I'll mark them with a little bit of red thread or something, so I can keep them lined up. But
Here we go, one down. Okay. You can go back to sleep. I just needed to get the flag, that's all. Anyhow, so one more on this one. I'm just going to do them all as I go. And it doesn't really matter. They're all fairly similar, but just for the sake of consistency, I'll try to keep them together. Anybody out there? Trying to imagine how the original flag was made. I said earlier, this is I based this on. There's this museum, I think in Denmark, that has the original of this pirate flag, and it's only one of 2 or 3 real pirate flags that are known to exist. My guess is that there are a couple more floating around the world somewhere in an attic or a trunk somewhere. You know. But 2 or 3 that are known to exist. I think one is in St. Augustine, but I believe that one's from like 1850. This one and there's a red one in England. This and the red one were captured from the Barbary pirates off the north coast of Africa in the late 18th century, as far as I understand it, which puts them right in my period of interest. I dig the 18th century. That's, to my mind, that is just before the Industrial Revolution, and steam power became very common, and mass production became very common. I mean, there was steam power a long time ago. The Greeks, I think, had steam engines and things, simple ones. But really, I think the height of human handmade just about everything was the late 18th century in Europe and the Americas, and at least. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so interested in it. You know, the sewing machine wasn't invented until about 1840, so anything prior to that anybody wore was handmade, from your shoes to your hat and everything in between. Everything everybody used was made by hand, somebody's hands. And so I think that period of history is really neat. It shows what human beings are capable of with relatively simple tools and techniques in common use. I mean, there were millions of people clothed and sheltered, and all handmade, all that stuff. So yeah, we're cruising along here. This is not bad. It's not as tedious as I thought it was going to be. I put this off for a few days. Just I was not looking forward to it. I hate tearing up something that I hadn't done, especially, you know, something I was so pleased with. But here we are, you know. It's just the way it goes. If you make art, you're going to make disasters occasionally. It's how you deal with that disaster that makes the difference. And that actually works in trades too. When I was a teenager, I went to work and got a trade, and after some time, years and years, I learned that the guys who were experts, who really knew what they were doing, and it was in a whole bunch of different construction trades. The basic stuff, you know, new guys can learn how to do, but it took the experts to solve the problems that came up. That's when experience and expertise really shows. I mean, a lot of the stuff people do is sort of straightforward, and a bright, you know, even fairly new guy can figure it out, or be trained or taught. But when a problem occurs, it's the real experienced guys who come up with the good solutions to it. So if you can figure out how to solve your problems, then
project come out good even when things go bad like this. And this isn't entirely bad. I don't hate these. I just don't like the fact that there was, if I could have come up with a way to dye this, the back of this flag, you know, the ground of the flag black again without destroying the skulls and bones, I'd have done that. I would prefer not to remove all these things, but I racked my brain for a couple of days and did some research, and I just could not come up with a way to do that. So here we are, pulling threads on a Saturday morning. But what else do we have to do in life? You know, life is short, art is long. So make good art and let it last. Make it worth somebody taking good care of it for 500 years, if you can. That's what I want to do anyway. Whew. All right, so carrying on.
Yes, how are we doing on time here? So the stream started 38 minutes ago, and I've got one bone completely off, and
I'm well into another one, so okay, not terrible. I have 3 flags with you know, bones on and skulls on each side, so I'm going to be here for a while, but get them. I think what I'm going to do is I'll get these off, and then I can re-dye the backs of the flags. And meanwhile, you know, while they're dyeing, I can get these bones cleaned up and ready to put back on when the stuff comes out of the dye bath. And hopefully, knock wood, it all just goes swimmingly. Everything's just perfect and easy, right? Now, it probably won't be, but that's all right. We'll sort it out when I get there. I'll figure it out somehow. I think what I'm going to do is, I think I said earlier, I'm going to cut these streams down to just the basics. I mean, you know, I'll just make like a short, maybe 5 or 10 minute video just showing the whole process, and I'll just cut out all the extraneous stuff. Like once you've seen me pull 30 stitches, you've seen them all. I just realized you can't see what's going on. There. So I've been trying to come up with good titles. I was watching some videos on how to make YouTube videos that people want to watch, and so I've been learning some of that stuff. And one thing that comes up over and over again is the importance of a title. It inspires some curiosity, but also sets expectations for the video and tells, you know, and then you deliver on that in the video, and people are generally satisfied. So coming toward, like, the title of this stream is, that's not the right one, don't pull that one. You know, I think this one I called, this stream I'm calling Saving a Wrecked Flag. I had ruined before, and then I thought, well, you know, wrecked has more an association with shipwrecks, so it's a little bit closer to the theme of this thing. Now, there are probably about 13 people on the planet who are interested in how to repair a broken pirate flag, but I figured lots of people have art projects or other projects, not even art projects, but any kind of project, home repair or automotive or engineering or whatever, architecture, any field. People have projects that go bad, and then I figure it's useful to get some ideas on, well, what do I do when a project inevitably goes bad, because if you're in any field long enough, it will. One will. Maybe more. But you know, I've had more than one go bad over the years, but so figured I'd start off with a Douglas Adams quote. Don't panic. That's the first thing, right? You just gotta fix it. You can't afford to worry about it. You just gotta get in and fix it. So here we go. Alright, so we're almost done with this one. It's going pretty fast. And I suspect that after these two now, I'm already feeling like I'm getting faster. I'll have to look at the clock when I, get through these. But I like to keep track of my time, just to, it gives me a sense of how long things take. Partly you can gauge how efficient your technique is, and then you can say, well, I did this other thing a little bit faster, and it's a similar kind of operation, so maybe I should change the way I'm doing these things, or this was faster than the last stuff I did, and so this is the better way to do it. Pull this thread out of here as I go. It's a lot easier, I think, to pull the threads as you go rather than come back to them. It's just neater, and it's less of a pain in the neck. I don't like having all these threads hanging around, getting in the way, tangling up what I'm working on. So here we go. Is this exciting or what? As you can tell by the cat, she's fascinated. This is just thrilling. It's a real Friday night party. We're celebrating President's Day, right? Is that Washington's birthday? When was Mr. Washington born?
Let me look that up real quick. Let's find out. February 22nd, 1732. Well, happy birthday, Mr. President.
His Excellency George Washington. Okay. I said this when I was working on the tent, and now I'm noticing it here too. I want to get another microphone, or find a way to get this one to be a little more sensitive to this, but the sound of the thread when I'm sewing is kind of cool, but also the sound of pulling it is. It might be interesting to be able to hear that. Maybe I should advertise these as ASMR videos, although I don't really know what that is. I just know it has something to do with the sound of, like, quiet sounds or something. Is that right? I don't know. I haven't really watched them. I've seen people talking about it a little bit here and there. I never really paid much attention to it, but I do like the sound of these things going through here. All right, cruising right along. We're nearly done with this one, and then it's on to, I think I'm going to pull one on each of these and just keep doing that. That's how I built them, so I just take them off in the reverse order. These, the ones I'm pulling now, they cross over the other booms, so these went on last, obviously. So I'm just working backwards, just to get them out of the way so we can get to the other ones, right? What is this? I have a knot here somehow. It is my plan to, I'm going to continue live streaming this year. I really enjoyed it. I don't know, I don't often have people show up. A couple of times while I've been working on these, though, I did have several people in the chat, and we were talking about history and different stuff, and it turned out to be a lot of fun. So I want to do more of it. Okay, let's flip this. And I think this one's ready to pull, right? There we go. So, got another one down. Awesome. All right, so here we go. Stack, get these threads out of the way. And stack it up. And there we are. So we got another set. Let's tape this one up just for fun. And, a number of years ago, and I don't listen to his music, but I mean, I listened to some of it years ago, but you know, at least enough to know who he is. But I thought that was a really kind of generous thing. He's got, you know, it's his copyrighted artwork, and he says, you know what? You want to use this in a video or a stream? Go for it. And I thought that was really generous. So, let's see here. I'm just going to start here. Man, I hate pulling these stitches just because there's. I mean, I remember every. That's the thing. You make something by hand, and you remember every stitch. You know, or every cut of the chisel or stroke of the brush or the pen or whatever you're using. You remember doing this stuff, you know. Like, I don't think about it when I was looking at the flag, I wasn't thinking about every stitch. Now I'm pulling them out, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember going through here very carefully and trying to do a neat job, and I did. I mean, look at these. You know, I mean, that's pretty nice, right? It's a crying shame, except it doesn't do any good to cry about it. You just gotta fix the thing, man. Yeah, so you can bitch and moan about it for a few minutes, but then you gotta roll up your sleeves and get to it. So that's where we are now. I've already done the bitching and moaning part, and now I'm just in the rescue phase. I have a wrecked project that I want to repair, and not only that, but I want it to be better than it was the first time I finished them. I mean, I was very happy with them. They were really good, really cool, and they look beautiful. And not only do I want to save these, I want them to look better than they did before. Because part of it was that I wanted some weather on it. I wanted it to appear like these I didn't want them all beat up. I didn't want them to look 250 years old. I wanted them to be just a little bit of wear. But I didn't know how to do that without wrecking them. Turned them pink and then bleached them out too much instead. So once I fix that, I'll know something about it. I always think I'm an expert at you know, I've got some expertise anyway at the end of a project, but never at the beginning. I never feel like I know exactly how I'm doing, because you know, most of my projects are one-offs, or there's something unique about them. They're not entirely unique, but there's something unique about each one. And so by the end of it, I always feel like, wow, I really know how to do this. In this case, I have the somewhat unique benefit of, well, I did this already, and so now when I go back through, it should allow me to make it even better. So these are going to look really good when they're done. It's just, there's a lot of stitches between here and there, you know. It's a lot of sewing. But that's, if you want to do it. I asked my grandfather, he owned a restaurant for decades. I said, do you like to cook? And he said, I like to eat. Well, okay. And I took that to mean, you know, you want to eat, you got to cook. Doesn't matter if you like it. If you like it, that's even better. But you know, in this case, do I like to sew? Well, I want a pirate flag. So here we go. Get to it. this is tricky here just because there's a little mess of threads here. I've got 3 or 4 of them in a row that are like doubled over. I think I tried to repair this part earlier. There we go. Right? No, I miss it.
This the seam ripper is a great tool if you do any sewing and have projects you're going to rip. This edge here it's not really sharp. You know, you're not gonna. I mean, you can poke yourself with it, but this is slightly sharper. So it down here, especially, it's honed a little bit. So it makes a nice nice cutter for slicing the threads. Looks like I need to cut my nails too. Or pair them as they. At least in one place I've read in the 18th century, you'd use a penknife for that, or something like that. A little blade. Okay, cool. Here we go. So let's get these out of here. These actually look kind of cool where it's removed. I mean, you can see the dark lines on the. Get this out of the way. You can see the dark line on the flag there. You know, that's the original black. Some of it wasn't completely bleached out when I created my disaster. It's kind of cool. It was way cooler before. It's going to be way cooler after, but right now it looks like garbage. All right, so we're rounding the horn here. There we go, right? I don't like these little short sections of thread. I like nice long threads. It makes them so much easier to get cleaned out of here. There we go. I made a Revolutionary War coat a number of years ago, and I sewed 2 left sleeves, which required me to, after I had done all this beautiful, careful stitching, I had to rip them all apart. Not both of them, obviously, but one of them I had to tear apart, and it was frustrating. But the coat now fits, and it works. So, again, you want the thing, you're going to have, no matter what. When I was in school, I had a teacher who, she taught us about chaos theory. It's basically entropy, you know, everything falls apart, but this idea of chaos was that things will, as I understood it, things are going to go wrong, or unexpected. They're going to go in unexpected ways, right? So, and it made an impact on me, and I started planning for chaos. So I just figured something is likely going to go wrong. So often when I'm doing something, I'll do things in staggered order or shuffle them around. And, you know, if I've got 8 of something to do, I'll paint. You know, thinking now of these pictures I'm making 8 landscape paintings of these mountains out in Utah, and so I'll paint, say, the clouds on each one, and then I shuffle them. So I'm not doing them all in the same order every time. So as I make errors or really good, like as Bob Ross used to call them, happy accidents, I distribute those, hopefully, evenly,
not randomly, but evenly through all of them. So they all have hopefully roughly the same proportion of errors and happy accidents and cool stuff happening in them all. So they all kind of look consistent. I'm doing the same thing with these. I'm going to do these bones and just kind of shuffle them around in different orders. You know, I don't want it to be, what I don't want is one to look really good and then the other two to be sort of like that. I want them all to look really good. So I'll just work this methodically all the way around, get them all in good order. I think what I'm going to do is with these streams, I'm going to start doing them shorter. Like I'm at, it should be about an hour by now, right? Yeah, 1 hour ago. So I think probably what I ought to do is end the stream and then restart right away, and then I can edit these more easily because they're shorter. I mean, I plan to keep going for a while. I'm well rested, and I've got fresh coffee that I made. I'm feeling pretty good, so I may keep going. Plus, I'm anxious to get these rebuilt, man. This has bothered me. You know, I took about a week where I was doing other stuff and just didn't even want to look at them. I mean, I was thinking about them, but really kind of putting off doing this. But you know, once I get into it, then I like to just go. So I think what I'm going to do is push through and get as much of these done as I can right away and try to finish them up this weekend. If I can do that, I will be very happy, because I've got some other projects I need to get started on. Just always loath to tear up something nice, you know. Like these were so cool, and then a moment of disaster. However, I mean, I don't know if I think about it, it's sort of authentic for piracy, right? So these merchants would have these beautiful little sloops or brigs or whatever they're sailing around, and then a pirate comes over the horizon or out of a fog bank or around the island, and then hoist the colors, and take these beautiful boats which are beautifully packed cargo and torch them or steal them or sink them or whatever. So you know, I guess it could be worse, man. This could be a real pirate flag. Instead of having a ruined pirate flag to fix, I might have a wrecked sloop to repair or take apart. Hey, I could do that. I could listen to General History of the Pirates. I did that before. I enjoyed that. There's this one where they're talking about the pirates didn't want the vessel, so they cut down all the masts and took all the sails out of her. So basically, they just left these dudes floating out there, so they couldn't give the alarm and get them caught until they were well out of the area. So there are worse situations to be in than to have a fun project go south on you. So when it does, just figure out what your options are, what resources you have. In this case, my options were to remake them from new, or you know, remake them from scratch and trash these. Didn't want to do that, or salvage these, or some combination of those, and that's what I'm doing, is a combination. So I'm making one brand new one, because that's the one for my friend. That's what he wants, and I want one of these salvaged, and I have another friend of mine who is interested in one. So we have these all nice for us, and the guy who wants a new one gets a new one, and then that's what we're going to go with. And then I looked, so you look at your options, and then, you know, practical options, and then what are the resources? Well, in this case, even having to make them from new, it's not as difficult as it was the first time, and frankly, it wasn't that difficult the first time. It was just a lot of hand sewing. But I have more material. You know, the material I used to make these, I have a bolt of it in there. And I have all my templates, which is a time-consuming part, but I always try to save the tools and templates that I make. I make, you know, make specialty tools and jigs and things to help do my jobs. And I try to save them, and I mean, I've got a library of stuff built up over decades. I've been doing this kind of thing. In this case, I have the exact ones that I did, you know, this month. So I know right where they are, I know they're all in good shape, and I know they work. So, plus my muscles are warmed up, you know, I've got the fine motor control, got all my tools here in one place. I've got my sewing kit here still, and my wax and my needles and all that stuff, the thread that I used for this. So it's not even like starting a new project. I have all the stuff that I did these with right here. So it's not really that bad to fix it. It's just frustrating. But that's how it goes. I've had the worst day of my life, and this ain't it. Gotta say, these flags do look cool even like this, but they just need to be black. Gotta hoist the black flag, not the fog gray flag. Tell you, the more I look at that red no quarter flag, the more I want to make one of those. I've got red wool too, and it was made on red wool. It's about 2 feet square, and there's a skull and bones in the center of it. Man, it's pretty cool looking. I think I may make one of those too once I get these rebuilt. I mean, I have some other things I got to do first, but maybe this later this spring or this summer I'll get to that. Just because I want one, just because I don't have any need. You know, I don't have a need for a pirate flag, but I have a desire to have one. So I may do that just because it's so cool looking. And the no quarter flag, that's what it meant. You know, no quarter. They expect no mercy, and their victims could expect no mercy from them. So you surrender, or we will not spare anybody. We don't expect any. So they're going to win or die trying. I don't know if they still do that. I wonder if any of the modern day pirates, like off Somalia or down in the Southeast Asia, I think they have a lot of piracy down there. I wonder if any of them use pirate flags, or if they just go out. Maybe I'm guessing they don't use flags. Maybe they're not as important these days. It'd be kind of a shame if they don't, because flags are cool. Everybody needs a pirate flag. All right, so cruising right along. Now these are big bones too, so they're taking a little. Well, they should be taking a little bit longer, but I feel like this is going pretty fast. Carrying on with the rescue of this pirate flag. Okay. My trusty seam ripper, and carry on. Even though these bones are bigger on this particular flag, it's this one's 150% of those. I think it's actually going about as fast getting these out. So, and it's probably due to, you know, once you've done a couple of them, it just kind of goes along pretty fast. You get a rhythm for it. There we go. All right. Yeah, this one's nearly there. So once I get these pulled, then I can, I think I'll just clean all the threads out of here, and then I can re-dye the backgrounds, and then I'll, I'm not sure exactly how to get these back to, I don't think I want a bright white, but I think what I'm going to do is I want to get the color a little bit more evened out. There's still some little faint traces of pink in it, so I may bleach these very lightly, just to get them a little bit whiter. I wanted them originally, I mean, the reason I ruined this, and I didn't obviously do it on purpose, but what I was trying for was just a real faint, just a little bit of brown, you know, just some dirt, some wear, some weather, some, you know, just, and then I thought, well, gee, why didn't I just spill coffee on them, you know, or soak them in a bucket full of weak coffee? That probably would have done the trick, you know, in hindsight. Instead, the brown professional dye, it's not professional, I guess, but commercial dye that I used, once I rinsed them out and then washed them, they turned pink. And a pink pirate flag is not nearly as intimidating as a black and white skull and bones. So, but, you know, now I know. Had I known at the beginning of the project, I wouldn't have done that. So now that I've done some pirate flags and had to rescue them from this disaster I created, now I know. So this one's almost done. And the nice thing about this is, as I'm doing it, you know, they're sewed on both sides, so you know, as I'm pulling the threads on the one side, it's, you know, obviously loosening the bone on the other side too. So I have two bones off now, and then I can just carry on. You know, I'm going to save the skulls till last, just because I want to make sure that I preserve them in their shapes, because it's kind of a precise drawing from that original 18th century flag that I used as the model. The model for these, I want to keep that shape. The bones are a little less complicated, so they're easier to just. I mean, they just come right off and they line up. So there we go. All right. So let's see here. We've got another one off, and actually we've got two off, right? So pull the flag, and then now these just. All these black threads out of here. Let me turn the camera again so you can see. Well, I don't know if you can see it that easily, but so these are basically like mirror copies of one another, and they align pretty neatly on here. So I'll keep these together, and then when I reassemble this thing, I'll just put them all back, hopefully just like that, because then they line up, and it makes it really easy to stitch, because when I you know, if you've got the black flag in between these two and they're lined up like this, then you just, you know, you make this stitch through and come, you know, just come back around the edge, and it connects both of them at the same time, and it makes it look really tidy, which is the way I like it. I've got some original 18th century sewn stuff. I've got, you know, if you look at the stitches on breeches and shirts and things from that period of time, they did them fairly carefully. Even on stuff like this, the original pirate flag that I copied for this was very very neatly done. You know, whoever sewed it knew what he was doing. He or she, I don't know. I'm guessing it was a man, only because the majority of pirates were men. And I don't think you could go to a reputable flag maker in town, or a tailor, I guess a tailor, or whomever. I don't know if there was enough demand for flags, but there are accounts in the general history of the pirates and other places where they talk about these guys set themselves up to go pirating and made their own colors. In fact, I want to listen to that section again, or reread it, if I probably listen to it. Because I think there's one where they talk about what they used to make the colors. You know, cloth and fabrics were kind of highly prized cargo. You know, it wasn't all chests of gold that they're after. I mean, obviously they like chests of gold, um, but a big part of the pirate trade was the calicos and cotton chintzes and, you know, the fabrics they could get, because they can easily sell those. They're, you know, they can fence those at any, you know, busy port. So there's a big demand for them. Whereas, you know, there we go. So just getting around this corner is going to be. This isn't too bad. These are actually pretty good here. The stitches. It's one of the advantages of doing neat stitching in the first place. It's easy to pull out if you have to, which I never want to do, so I don't actually plan for that. But it's just kind of a byproduct, you know. I see somebody's watching the stream, and I'm a little gun shy about saying hello and welcoming you, because every time I do that, people bolt. I don't know why, but I'm going to take the risk and say happy Saturday morning to you, and I'm glad you joined. And I'll test my theory. I hope you stick around. Say hi in the chat. If you have any questions, or you want to tell me a joke or an 18th century pirate story, I'm all ears. Well, all eyes. I've got my monitor open over here. I can read. Kind of new to streaming. I started last month, and several times we had a group of people in the chat, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm hoping we can develop that as we go on. I'm going to be doing this kind of project. I work on all kinds of different things, but so my live streams are generally going to be, and have been, me making stuff and people dropping in and just shooting the breeze and chewing the fat, or however you want to call it, while I work on these things. And several times we end up having some pretty good discussions about history and making things and all kinds of stuff like that. So I don't know of any other, or a lot of other streams. I mean, there are some that do that. I haven't really seen them in like historical recreation stuff, which is kind of what I do on these, and painting too. But I haven't done any painting live streams because I haven't been able to figure out how to stream mobile. YouTube had the requirements listed, and I thought I met them, but I can't find the controls to set up the stream. So for now, I'm just doing stuff on my desktop computer. But once I get that other stuff fixed up, and we can go a little further afield, do some other kinds of project streams. All right, this is going really good here. I like to cut these as I go so they're out of the way, but this one's kind of cruising right along. should probably wash my desk here. Got paint and glue and wax and stuff all over it. Just noticed that. It is unsightly, so I think I need to get some mineral spirits. I'm gonna have to clean that off. That's from the actually from painting the skulls and bones. Probably take some glass cleaner and a clean, sharp razor blade and scrape it off. Now that I think about it, that'll do the trick. So we're barreling down the line here. We'll have one flag's complete set of bones off. So I'm guessing there, yeah. All right, not quite halfway down this one, but it's cruising right along. And I still have the other two smaller ones to do. They're, oh, that's a little better. So I pulled one pair of bones off of each of the other flags. And this one I'll take all of them off and then get those off, and then we'll take the skulls, and then we can really start in earnest to get these things fixed up. It's my goal. I mean, it took, I don't know how, I haven't actually looked and counted up how long it took to do these, but I'm guessing that it's going to be much less time. Because I'm not having to figure out how to do it. I know how to do it because I did it. I had never, before I did this project a couple weeks ago, I had never made a pirate flag, or a flag of any kind really, and so figuring it out takes a lot of time and effort, and some trial and error. Plus I had made my templates and got my materials and figured out what worked and made some tests and stuff. But now that I've done it, this should go fairly quickly because it's just taking it apart, fixing what ails it, and then reassembling it. Oh, and then I do have one complete new one to make, but that's a separate thing. I am going to do that at the same time, as I do all these, though. I want them all to be coming out of the same workshop, so to speak, with the same feeling, same technique and stuff. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. Okay, there we go. It just occurred to me, maybe I should, I don't know, think about it. I was just talking about how, the kind of live streams that I want to make and that I enjoy. And, need some kind of branding so that people can look at it and see, oh, this is that stream that makes old-fashioned stuff. Maybe I could do something on the thumbnail or something like that, so that it makes sense. Like right when you see it, you know what it is. Because I look at the YouTube live stream tab and places people all around the world, and they all have different thumbnails, and I can't tell what some of them are about. Most of them I can't tell what they're about, but maybe it would help to have some kind of logo or something on here, that maybe a pair of hands doing something, or a hand doing something, working on something. It's kind of a visual thing. Even if people don't speak English, they can see what it's up. Though I don't know where. I think most of my live stream viewers are from the United States. I should check and see. I've got a knot here to get out, but apart from that, this is coming along easily. I want to pull the, or cut this thread out without cutting the flag itself. There we go. I don't want to weaken the material any more than I have to. It's already exciting enough and cool looking enough without adding. I mean, now if I did cut the material, I can patch it. I know some 18th century techniques that are period correct for, you know, darning it or patching it and stuff. I don't want to do that on here. I don't want to get to that level of detail. Nobody's going to look at it that closely that that's important. So, what I do want, though, is to get the, I want the body of this thing to be nice and black. Now they weren't actually, I'd call it more a, like a charcoal gray or something like that. They weren't actually black. I've got some black silk from the, it's, well, over there. Maybe I'll bring it up to the camera. Say something in the chat, and if you want to see them, I'll bring the, I've got a pair of 18th century breeches over here. And I can show you what true, authentic 18th century black material looks like. But, I mean, if that's not interesting. Hello, darling. Didn't you just come through here? Are you making your rounds? What you doing? Did you go eat? Hi. How are you? You want to jump up here? You want to sit with me for a while? Oh, come on up. There's a good girl. Well, come on up and hang out for a little while, and then I'll open the door and you can go back to bed if you want. What does thee wish? Well, come up here. Come on. There you go. Sure. No, not here, please. No, I know, I'm working though. Not right now. But if you want, I'll open that door for you, and you can see. Well, if you want, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Well, you tell me. I'm fixing my pirate flags. What are you doing? What do you think of this? You think this is going to work? I know, you liked them better before too. Didn't we all? Well, I don't know. Really? No, not right now, honey. You stay on this chair here. You can sit here if you like, or I'll open that other door, and you know you can go around, right? I know you know that. Do you want me to get the door? All right. My cat wants to do laps around the room, so I had to open a door for her. Getting there. I've got just about a foot of stitching left on this set of bones, and then we go on to the next one. So it's cruising along. Time's flying because this is so much fun and it's so exciting. I don't think people have quite any understanding of just how thrilling pulling stitches really is. Surprised there aren't more live streams dedicated to the excitement and thrills that come with repeatedly pulling stitches out of a piece of pirate flag. But boy, if people knew. All right. So. All right, finally. So I'm gonna pull these loose threads out. I'm just cleaning up the edges here. Whew. Okay, we've got one errant thread there. Right. Let's get that out. And here we go. All right, so let me move the camera a little bit. Well, not a whole lot to look at there, but it'll give you some idea of what I'm doing. So I'm just lining these up. And again, it's just a mirror image of it. So, and here we are. So that's all of the bones off of this flag. So I'm going to hang it up and we can take a look. Where's my tape? All right. So there we go. There is a pirate flag. Process. So I think they look cool. Unfortunately, they don't look as cool in the sunlight as they. I think they look cool, but they don't do the job. So we've got to make them, you know, bold black flags. Okay, in the interest of being able to edit this down later and make it more usable, I'm going to end this stream and then immediately restart.